Hello, welcome back to the ministry. And today we're talking about kingdom marriage and the operation and alignment of godly marriage. And the Lord gave me two books. Uh, what was it? God is Your Matchmaker by Derek and Ruth Prince. And then he gave me Love and Respect by Dr. Eckerman Eggerich. I keep mispronouncing his last name. I'm seeing it, but it's messing me up. But if you look that up, you should be able to find it. It's a great audiobook on Audible. But anyway, the Lord gave me the concept of marriage, and he gave me a few songs to go through. I thought I was only going to be talking about the album Tony Braxton and Babyface's Love, Marriage, and Divorce, but he gave me a few songs from Justin Timberlake he wanted me to go through, and I feel like these reflect a man's feelings for you when he's in love and wants to marry you. And the number one song that I'm talking about today is Mirrors by Justin Timberlake. So, Mirrors, I actually could not find the lyrics for this song in their completion. Normally, when I look up lyrics to a song, it gives me the lyrics. This one didn't give me the lyrics. I have to click on it, and the way my phone works, at least this one, I can't really open it up like that. So I'm gonna go off of memory to a degree. You gonna get it if you've ever saw this song. You can go through it yourself, and if I get a chance to, I'll see if I can get on the computer and go through it a little bit more. But it talks about you're something like a mirror. You reflect me, and I love that about you, because you shine something like a mirror. I can't help but to notice that you affect this heart of mine. For some of you, your God ordained spouse's heart was affected by the way that you have covered and prayed for them. It created a level of reflection in their heart, one, to reflect on themselves and their spirit in order to become the man necessary to be your spouse. Because they knew they couldn't walk into this half anything. So they needed to prepare themselves to be that reflection of you, what you reflect in their heart. This is why the Lord has had you praying for them the way that he has, because of the fact that you are a reflection. I was hearing Diani Neves in a video that she did a while back where she talked about your emotions. Because you are connected to this individual, when you spiritually reject the feelings of love that this man is sending you, it's like you're spiritually rejecting them. This is why when you feel that love, you got to sit in it and receive it. Because you're going to have to receive it when they get to you. If you ain't receiving it when they're not here, Because some of us get into our busy mode and you feel that feeling come over us, but we start to reject that feeling because it's like, I can't think of that. I can't be in that. And some of them, that's what was happening. They sensed your love for them and they were rejecting it. So they love how that reflects in your heart to their heart. So when it comes down to it, let's see here. That they desire to make a life with you, which now I can go into the notes. Let's see here. Which one is this? That's not the one I wanted. Let me come back. One of the first opening things that we see in the Bible is a wedding. When you see God bringing Eve to Adam and presenting her, the Bible opens with a wedding of him presenting Adam and Eve by the second chapter of Genesis. Then it closes at the end with a wedding in Revelations 19:6, 9 through 19. God indicates marriages in the beginning and the end. Here, there's wedding banquets, there's the wine, there's Jesus brought forth the wine concerning that wedding so that the wedding would go well. It was the most important part of the wedding for the focus to remain on the bride and bridegroom, not for the minimal problem of the wine. God made man. In Genesis 2:24, it speaks of God makes man. He has man leave his mother and father. Then he becomes one flesh with his wife. And then no one shall put that relationship to sunder. Some of you spiritually have already become married to your spouse. And if God put it together, can no man put it asunder. What the enemy is fighting is the physical manifestation of this marriage. He don't want to see that. Because once you physically come into contact with this individual, it's a wrap. God brought Jesus in to uphold marriages. Mirror talks about the reflection of the woman to man that is necessary. The Bible talks about the breakdown of what marriage is. But God made Eve to reflect Adam. She was just a female. And for some of y'all who've been concerned about your spouse, why is it taking so long? What was this? The reason is because when God tapped that man and said, hey, that's your wife, that man's human carnal instinct was to say, oh, hell no, you didn't tell me that. The devil is a liar and ain't no truth in him. Because they were operating in their carnal will of being that casual carnal Christian, operating in that permissive will. I'm going to do what God tells me to do when I feel like doing it. I'm going to listen to God's mind when I want to listen to God's mind. And I'm going to deal with my emotions how I choose to deal with my emotions. But the heart is despicably wicked and will lead you astray every daggone time. And this man saw this woman with a Brazilian butt lift, boobs, and Brazilian hair and said, just as Samson said, I want her. And God said, I didn't give you a choice in this. In this book, Make God Your Matchmaker, it talks about the 7 steps that God did. And number 1, he said Adam had no part in the choice of marriage. Without divine revelation, Man cannot understand it, much less make it a part of his experience. Some of these men didn't even choose to be married. God said, I need to get you out of the lifestyle you are in. I am designating you to get married, sir. So you've been wondering why he's been fighting it so much, because he didn't get a choice in that matter. He didn't even get to choose who he wanted to marry. What God did was he put you on that man's heart and then changed the man's heart to desire what he desired. Once he came back to God and came to the realization, this is better for you. Think about a parent. When you are a parent, you give your child something, you know what's good for them. Parents who give your children vegetables and greens and all these kinds of things, and the child's like, yuck, I don't want to eat that. Ugh. But you know that that's good for their bones. It's good for their body. It gives them iron. It keeps them healthy to eat them vegetables. They may not like it. This is why parents have to come up with interesting ways to put vegetables and stuff in their food. But it's good for them. Some of these men didn't understand that the marriage to you was going to be good for them until they saw the reflection. Remember the quote I gave you? A man does not know what's good for him until he sees it. 2, the decision that man was to marry proceeded from God, not from him. God wanted that man to marry you, not him. Is that understood? So God knew the kind of helper that man needed. Some of these men out there, they were not paying attention to the help that they needed. They were paying attention to the body of the person that they was with, but not the fact that in a long-term relationship, is this person going to be good for me? Is it going to be good for my children? Is it going to be good for my children's health to be associated with this individual in their life? Is it going to be good for this individual to have this type of connection with this person? Huh? Is it going to be a good idea? They were not thinking about, if I marry this person and they disrespecting me right now, are they going to put this poison into my children? Am I going to repeat the same perpetual cycles with my kids? Does this person even respect what I do on a day-to-day basis? They weren't even thinking about half of that stuff. Nah, the nookie was good. And God's trying to say, no, I think you should let that go. You already know it's toxic, but you refuse to let it go. Let me cut you loose from this. And it's going to hurt. Because it's going to be like I just cut one of your arms off. And you're going to be bleeding all over the place. But guess what? I'm going to cut you loose from that so I can give you what belongs to you. And I'm going to repair that wound. Heal it. Then I'm going to bring that wife to you. Remember what I said in the word where I was talking about these men were bound up and shut up because the Lord was healing them? He didn't heal them from all them wounds. During that time, he was preparing you. Some of y'all, you was in the middle of the preparing process. And I'm going to repeat what The minister said this morning in her word, she was literally saying, some of y'all were in the middle of being incubated. It's like a pregnancy, but y'all was pregnant with marriage. And you were in the process of gestation, the gestation period of preparing for marriage. And some of y'all was sitting up there, I'm tired. I want my husband. I want my this. But you were only 5 months into it. I'm not talking about physically 5 months. I'm talking about what a 5-month period looks like in a pregnancy. You might have been in it 5 years. You think, why ain't he ready yet? It's been 5 years. You know, some people had to wait 9 because that man was fighting him. And for some, it was you that was fighting him because you weren't giving up to God what needed to be given up to God so God could prepare you to walk in it. So he had to have you sit there. I mean, it's like, sit here until you finish going through your cultivation process. Whine, cry, have a temper tantrum, stand still. When you stand still, I'm going to come back. Same thing he was doing to that man. But see, what God knew that you didn't understand, and I talked about this in the tortoise and the hare word I did way back, was that when your God ordained spouse gets it, it may take him 6 months to get into order. It may take him only a few months to get himself in order when he stops fighting God. You had to wait 9 years for that man. It took him 6 months when he finally gave it over to God. Meanwhile, he was preparing you, cultivating you, getting all of that stuff out of your heart, circumcising your heart. Yes, you done fell off the wagon and came back and you cried, you had a temper tantrum. Why is it taking so long? Because he had to get that stuff out of you. You had a lot that you needed to come out of you so that when he brought this man, that it only took him 6 months, when he finally brought him into that 6-month period of cultivation and healing and all of this, he healed quick. It took 9 years. And for some of y'all did the cultivating in your previous relationship. So by the time God brought it to you, some of y'all, it would take 3 months. It take 1 year. It all depends. But he needed to cultivate you. Dana Ray did a word talking about, can you stand the rain? He needs to cultivate you to handle them rainy days. Last night it was a torrential downpour. The porch is still wet. He needs to cultivate you for those rainy days. Preparing the woman before he could then present you. Some of y'all are in the midst of preparation for presentation. Esther treatments. Some of y'all, God is doing the work on you now. I was listening to the minister this morning and she was talking about the fact that God's got to change your garments. He's got to give you new clothes. He's got to prepare you for where he's taking you, because if he does not, you're not going to fit in with that grouping of people. So in that, there is a level of cultivation that he needed to do. And sad to say it, in the time that Eve was created for Adam, there was no other woman. But in today's society, there are 6 to 7 types of other women types that man could choose from. And I'm going to list you those other types. The independent, hustler, go-getter, I can do bad all by myself, Miss Independent, dominating and intimidating woman. Some of your men liked that because they kind of would like secretively desire to have the ability to rest in that domination. 1, they liked it in the bedroom like that. Let's just be honest. 2, they liked the way that these people thought. That hustler mentality. They know that they could be a go-getter with them. But that doesn't breed for a good mom character. I'm just being honest. especially if you have that dominating, intimidating personality. You know, scare your children all the time to keep them in line. You think fear works? Shoot, some of them had parents that were like that. So they didn't know no better because their mama was like that with them. So when they saw a woman that was hustler mentality and had that dominating, intimidating personality, much like their mama did, they were like, oh, I'm hook up with this person. God was like, no, bad idea. Then you have the inquisitive woman and is only in it for her own benefit. Sheba. Then you have the air of godliness, no God in them woman. Acts godly, but it leads them in a way that is away from God and projects as soon as you catch them on it. Meaning they're going to project the completely opposite when you catch them and try making you look like you crazy. Then you got the victim narcissist. Shares trauma to be rescued until you wake up. And then again, also projects confusion once the individual wakes up to that factor. You're just a narcissist. Then number 5, the inquisitive to the other person's benefit. This is a person that is a good characteristic to be with this individual because they are a servant heart. They inquire because they want to actually benefit this individual, not harm them. Then you have meek, soft-spoken, but has a lion's heart. Very observant, discerning, very quiet, but smart as a fox. And uses their gifts not for evil. People hate this woman. Lastly, is the meek, soft-spoken, introverted, non-confrontational, and easily able to be controlled. Toxic men that have that narcissistic characteristic of the woman, they're drawn to that woman because they can control that individual. Some personality types cross psychologically with each other, meaning some of the things I just listed, you may catch 2 different types combined together in one person. And these men were choosing, but these were the women that they had to choose from. And what happens, you got to you have to read up on attachment styles. And that's what causes these men to get connected to wrong people. This is why God needs to choose your spouse. Keys to the Kingdom did 2 videos, and they're listed in my deliverance playlist because they were so good, I just had to. And she talks about the attachment styles, and you will catch these in men and in women. But she was talking about kids, but if you really think about it, it makes sense because the inner child within you never grew up. So the inner trauma of that child is still on you as an adult. And if you have these kind of attachment styles as an adult, you're going to attach to people like this. The first 4 are possible characteristic types, and the last 3 are possible characteristic types. Now, with this, some people, you can experience it with the opposite sex, but the worldly people, and if you're especially looking at the way society is operating in these days, you will see this out in the world with same-sex relationships. I just had to throw that in there. Now, returning to these 7 points, point 6, an God-ordained nature of life that you're supposed to have together. You have purpose and unity amongst you. Go back to the word where I talk about the exaltation. I talk about the fact that if they are wrongly aligned, that man's going to toil. But if you're rightly aligned, you're going to be able to operate in unity and things going to get done. Jesus upheld God's plan on this world for relationships and marriages. And these things are being enforced today with Genesis 2 and 24. These men are looking for a partner that is a reflection to them, so that they may become one flesh with this individual that is a reflection of who they are. But some of them didn't know it nor realize that that's what they truly were deep down looking for. God had to bring that in. And he did that with you. A Christian man and woman need to allow God's principles to line them up and lead them. But the man has no clue. So God takes the best elements of the man, what it is that they do, the things that are beneficial. He puts all of these things in the woman that he needs to spend his life with. So God needs to choose and prepare that woman. We are in the best position we could ever be in when we make the choice to be prepared for these relationships. Go back and look at my word where I talk about marriage is the most important exam you'll ever take, which was further confirmed when I was listening to the book Love and Respect, because the person that wrote that book was talking about what marriage truly is. In all honesty, is you expressing your devotion for Jesus Christ with your spouse. Meaning how you cover and devote your life to your spouse is a reflection of Jesus Christ in their life and they in yours. And it's the biggest test of that. Am I making sense to y'all? I hope I'm making sense to y'all. So, I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about, I think I'm going to do the Justin Timberlake other song first before I go into Reunited. So, I will be right back.